Welcome to Breaking Down Bergman, and today we're looking at Sawdust and Tinsel.
Låt mig vara! Låt mig gå! Jag vill inte!
Ska jag släppa det, menar du?
Jag orkar inte. Jag vill inte. Kan du inte låta mig vara?
Ge mig nyckeln.
Kan du som är vid cirkus tala om för mig hur ni bär er åt för att få björnarna att dansa? Jag har hört sägas att ni använder glödande stänger.
Ge mig nyckeln.
Hatar du mig?
Ge mig nyckeln, ge mig nyckeln, ge mig nyckeln!
Jo, du hatar mig. Jag tycker bättre om det så. När du är undergiven.
Ge mig nyckeln.
Du ska få den. Sen.
Ge mig nyckeln.
Vi ska leka färdigt först, tycker du inte? Ser du den här amuletten? En mycket dyrbar tingest. Jag fick den en gång av en dam som ville visa sin tacksamhet. Om du är snäll flicka och inte bråkar ska du få den av mig. Du kan köpa dig dyrbara kläder. Du kan leva på den ett helt år. Du behöver inte följa med cirkusen härifrån. Amuletten kommer att ge dig tur. I eftermiddag går du ner till guldsmeden strax om hörnan och säljer den.
Jag kan leva på den, säger du.
Minst ett år, Anna. De här pärlorna äktar sig själv.
Jag får gå sen. Du lovar att ge mig nyckeln.
Jag lovar.
Och aldrig berätta.
Och aldrig berätta.
Bergman's 13th film, filmed in 1953, the same year as Summer with Monica.
Right.
So he's clearly making strides here. And I don't know whether it has to do with personal things and where he is in his life, or the relationship that he has with Harriet Anderson, who's
Right.
also the lead here.
She was in Summer with Monica, and she had obviously the title role in that. Here she has another prominent role as the love interest and one of the key motivators of the plot line. But she is presented in a different way, not quite how she was in Monica, where she was sort of a naive yet sort of corrupt in some ways young woman. One thing that Harriet Anderson noted about her character in this film, though, is that she wasn't sure if it was based on herself. She wasn't sure if Bergman worked his own life into this film, as he has in many of his movies, and made Anne actually about the actress Harriet. And this jealousy and infidelity that goes on in this film was actually based on Bergman.
It could be. Although it's a very stylistically powerful film, there's a lot that happens in terms of cinematography and all that kind of good stuff. The plot is fairly straightforward, right? So it's a very, you know, beginning, middle, end kind of story. We have the circus troupe. They're traveling from city to city. They're very vagabond-like. They're very poor. I mean, so Circus Alberti, which is owned and led by Albert, who is Anne's boyfriend, I guess, who also is married and has left his wife because she found a stable life and is a shopkeeper, and he wanted to continue this kind of bohemian lifestyle with the circus. As the circus is traveling, they stop to perform in the city where Albert's wife is currently living with their two sons, who he abandoned. And there's this anxiety that Anne has that he is now tired of the circus, tired of her, has all these calamities, and that he's going to go back to his wife. Which, when he goes to visit her, he does try to do, and she rejects him. So because Anne feels threatened, she then runs off and has a tryst with the local town's theater troupe.
So one of the men.
Yes, just one of them. So they both betray each other, and then they accuse each other of betrayal, they lie to each other, they fight. Albert tries to kill himself in a very dramatic fashion, doesn't succeed. There's a lot of humiliation that gets sprinkled on everybody.
And what I just want to pick up one of the words that you pointed out there, humiliation, because ultimately that's what this movie seems to be about, particularly in the case of the main character, Albert. But, you know, really, in the case of everyone in the film.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think Bergman really warms us up to that right from the start. Actually, the way that the film opens, we both watched that sequence multiple times just because it's so interesting.
It's a flashback. It's a story told. It almost seems like it's a fable or something, but it ultimately ends up not being, you can presume, because it involves one of the characters who actually is in the circus troupe.
Well, another couple.
Two. We see Frost going to get his wife, who has ventured out for a stroll by the sea, and runs into a group of soldiers who sort of egg her on and encourage her to sort of seduce them strangely. And the flashback is told in what is essentially the styles of a silent film. There's very little sound in it aside from the firing of the cannons, which are very sexualized. The soldiers are kind of egging on this woman who's removing her clothes. Frost comes and sort of retrieves her in this moment of humiliation where his wife is suddenly found naked and has more interest in this group of soldiers than she ever had in her clown husband.
Yeah. Well,
that frames the film.
It does frame the film. It's an interesting scene because Frost's humiliation, i.e. his wife has put him in this position of complete shame. He loses total face. So there's what it seems like hundreds of men who are now gazing upon his naked wife splashing in the sea. So that's bad enough. But he has to go fetch her, which means he has to remove his clothes. He strips. He's naked. He's gaunt. He's weak. He's skinny. And he's surrounded by these robust men and these firing pistons. And he has to tremblingly and shiver his way into the sea and get her out. And he's slipping on the rocks. It's very painful to watch. Like it's very hyper-realistic. And that scene then is mirrored in the film in the actual story of Albert and Anne. So Anne has a tryst with Franz, who's the lead actor in the theater troupe. But it's a very complex scene. I think what Bergman really here is exploring is the power dynamics between men and women, whether it's in a committed relationship or in a sexual relationship of any kind. Who is seducing whom? Who has the power to arouse another person, and who gives in to their arousal? So for example, with Anne and Albert, he's kind of the slovenly, sweaty, old, fat guy, and she's this hot young thing. So in a way, it's like she almost always has the upper hand, except when she gets worried that he might leave her for his wife. With Franz, it's different. He's the more kind of sophisticated, handsome to almost an effeminate degree, you know, actor, and she feels self-conscious around him. So when she goes to seduce him, it's burlesque almost in a way, because that's all she knows how to do. So she's very titillating in that way, and Bergman presents her that way with the gaudy clothes that she has, like her heaving breasts that are falling out of her girdle. Like it's crazy the way that she's eroticized in the scene. But with Franz, like, even though she's trying to seduce him, the whole time he has control over her because he's more experienced in these kind of scenarios. And so what ensues is this power struggle where on the one hand she keeps trying to master him, and she uses very explicit metaphors, saying things like, oh, I'm so strong. She even tries to arm wrestle him, right? And, you know, she says, oh, I ride stallions without a saddle, like bareback. I have the strongest legs. I can do this, I can do that. And in the end, he's the one who masters her. So he masters her both physically, because they have a physical altercation, aside from the arm wrestling, when she wins. He wrestles her down to the floor, you know, and she's begging him to stop. But then he also outwits her in the seduction, because he actually tricks her into believing that, you know, even though she says, I've changed my mind, I don't want to sleep with you, he says, I will pay you. So here's an amulet, a necklace, I will give it to you. It's worth a year of independence. So you can feed and clothe and live on it if you sell it for a year. She takes it. So she has sex with him for money or for an exchange. The trinket, the amulet ends up being a worthless trinket. When she tries to exchange it at the goldsmith, she gets nothing.
But I think that dynamic in the scene is interesting in how it carries on to the rest of the film. Now when Anne returns to Albert, her situation, her infidelities humiliate him, because he ends up going to defend her, not fully aware, I guess, of how the situation played out when he was
Yeah.
absent. But again, it leads to Albert's humiliation, the ultimate in this film. Everyone, the crowd is watching him, laughing at him. He's fighting against this man from the theater as well, and he loses. Albert loses, and again, the circus folk are on the lowest rung.
This is a challenging theme because the way that I'm used to humiliation as being a topic of interest, let's say in literature or drama, is that, and it's actually an old trope, like it goes as far back as, let's say, Shakespeare, is usually it comes up in a reversal of fortune situation. So you have somebody who is, you know, a noble character, they're high up, they're the hero, they have a reversal of fortune, they learn a lesson about themselves, about the world, they become a better person for it, and then they're resurrected back to their stature or even greater, right?
That would never be a Bergman style, because that...
No, it would not. So...
That would be optimistic.
It wouldn't be dark. So this is what was challenging for me about the movie. It received some review, like the reviews for the film were very stark, right? Like stark opposites.
Yeah.
Some people said it's the greatest Bergman film, and other people, I believe one of them referred it to Bergman's vomit.
Yes, there were some really harsh reviews of the movie, particularly at the time. What's interesting about this movie, though, is that over the years, it seems like it has gained favor with Bergman fans and critics. And some people are perceiving it to be one of his best films now. Now, I don't know if I would agree with that. There's some real technical virtuosity, and I think that from what I understand, there's a lot of things in this movie that are going to come into play later. I'm really interested to see if we can come back to Sawdust and Tinsel later on, and perhaps appreciate it a little bit more than we do now. Not to say that I don't like it now, and I'm curious to see what you think about it.
I feel like it deserves another viewing almost, because I feel like there were things that I may have missed in the presentation of it, because there was so much to look at in the film. So for me, I would say I enjoyed it. I think it was a little over my head on the first viewing, and I will consider watching it again.
So is that a yes? Is this essential Bergman?
You know what? I think for the decade of the 50s, it could definitely be one. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to put my foot down on this. It is essential Bergman. There is just enough here to make it essential. There is so much going on. I mean, even the fact that Harriet Anderson's in it, if you were going to pick between Summer with Monica and Sawdust and Tinsel, I think you would have to go with Sawdust and Tinsel. There's just more there as a whole. Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Should we arm wrestle? No, I'm kidding.
Well, we know how that would end.
Let's not try it.
Okay, well, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment on this film. Let us know what you think about it. Is it essential Bergman? And we'll see you next time on Breaking Down Bergman.
Ciao.
Come on.